Welcome to Dance Uncorked podcast. I'm your host, Lindsay Jean. Thanks for joining us today. And today I have special guests, beloved sisters, Karla and Ashley here. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
I've had the pleasure of knowing these two fabulous women for a really long time. I think my first introduction was to Karla, actually. I think you were a few months shy of graduating high school when I met you. And I was fresh as a freshman in college. So we're actually very close in age. And that was when I started teaching at Spotlight, and you were kind of finishing up that final senior year with the competition group, and you were definitely like a lead dancer in that studio as a student, and then you eventually, very quickly after that, became an instructor as well. And then Ashley, you were also a student. At some point in time or another. It's really fun to think back on. I don't know, Karla, if you think like this too. There's like generations of students.
Yes.
And which like generation were all these kids in? Like, I'm like, wait a minute. And then like Lisa is like OG, and like I'm just like, yeah. So it's fun to think about the time actually that passed over that time, and how many wonderful students got to grace us with their presence, and we got to be a part of their lives. So before we get started about dance, let's talk about wine. So as we all know, the fun game with this podcast is that I am on the West Coast and most of you are still on the East Coast or somewhere else, not on the West Coast. And so finding wine is really kind of a fun game. So we try and go to national grocery stores like Target or, anywhere, right? That kind of carries the same thing over and over again. But we had a fun game of trying to figure out which wine we were going to choose. So Karla, you sent me a picture and I couldn't find that wine, but I found the one next to it.
I was like, okay, I'll go back and let's get the other one.
I was like, I need you to go back and get that other one because I actually found that one here. So we're actually drinking a Pinot Noir today. Yes. And I don't know how to pronounce this. I'm just going to say Elouan.
I'm thinking the same thing.
Yeah. Elouan. I'll tell you what it means. I did a little bit of research on this, and what's interesting is that this is a California-made wine. Like, it was made in California, but these are grapes from Oregon. So something interesting about this particular label is that the motto is Oregon wines with a hint of California influence. And it's made by a California winemaker, and he sources his grapes from 3 different vineyards along the west coast of Oregon. So lots of like coastal range type vineyards, which produce very specific types of Pinot Noir. The terrain and just the different kinds of weather that is on the coast. I live in like the Eugene area, and that's probably an hour from the coast, and the weather here is significantly different than if I went to the coast right now. It would be like a 20-degree difference. So a lot cooler, windier, the coast here is nothing like the beach in Florida. Nothing like it. Hypothermia if you go in. Like, you don't go in the water. Like, that's
no, thank you.
Yeah. I do, but like
from here.
I don't even go in the water in Florida. Like, I'm scared. So yeah. But different kind of grapes grow really well in that cold and like wet climate. So he's pulling these grapes from there. The winemaker's name is Joseph Wagner, and he is actually a 5th generation winemaker. So this has been in his family for a long time. This is kind of a normal and a traditional story for a lot of winemakers here, especially on the East or the West Coast. It's in their family. They've been doing it for generations, and they kind of just pass it on from one generation to the next. I think he started making wine when he was 19, and that was, I think, 2001. And he hasn't looked back since. He has like 5 different brands or labels. So this is one of them. And he has like 5 other different ones that he's played around with over time. And like I said, his vineyards range from like California to these Oregon ones too. Elouan means good light. And I think that is, if you read the website, it's kind of representative of like the that coastal light that you're going to get from being on the coast. I mean, it's rainy and cold here most of the time. So I think that's like ironic that you would call it that, because I'm like, there's mostly clouds here, even on the coast. Like it's very like cloudy and drizzly, very London most of the time. Like it's very damp. So, but it means good light, and he goes into more detail about that on his website. He has a vineyard here in the north. He pulls these grapes from a vineyard in the northwestern region of Oregon. You're going to go down south a little bit, so west central, and then like the southwest. So he's kind of pulling from all the different terrains, and there's different soil compositions in all these different regions, and you can get like super nerdy about it because winemaking is like chemistry. They are chemists.
Yeah, I believe it.
And so it's very, very detailed. And he goes into quite a bit of detail on the website about like how this particular wine was made. And so it's good if you're like interested in wine, because the way he explains it is like, you'll go look up these words because he says these things and you're like, well, what does that mean? And then you kind of spiral down this wine trail. One of the goals is that Joseph has for this particular wine is to produce Pinot Noir with a depth of flavor, vibrancy, and suppleness. So that's very characteristic. I think that's where he's like, we're going to put a California twist on this, because California, especially Napa, they're known for like big reds and like juicy, jammy, big reds. So he wants to take this like really delicate Pinot Noir grape from Oregon, and he wants to put like a California twist on it, and kind of make it bold, or play with different ways to like enhance this flavor, or really like activate this grape. So like I said, check out the website for more details on the process of making this 2021 Pinot. It's really interesting. They like to reactivate winemaking. That was kind of a phrase that he used on his website. And then what I noticed is that he uses some non-traditional Pinot Noir techniques that I would say non-traditional in a way that I'm not used to seeing outside of Oregon, because like Oregon winemakers make their Pinot in a very specific way. And once again, I am no expert, but just kind of being around the industry. Two of those non-traditional, quote unquote, that's what I'm going to call it, is that they aged this Pinot in a mix of new and seasoned French oak. Normally, Pinot Noirs, winemakers are like, it has to be new French oak only. Like you have to do that. So he's doing a little bit of both, and I think that's going to make it edgier. Like it's because it's seasoned. Like I don't know if he's using like liquor barrels, or if he's using just like other red wine barrels that he's repurposing for this. But it's going to probably give it more of an edge and that robust taste that you're wanting. And then malolactic fermentation is how he finishes this wine. And I'm not used to that happening on a Pinot Noir. And malolactic fermentation, from what I understand, I don't understand the ins and outs of it, once again, because it's like chemistry. It's something that they do to the wine to add a little bit of texture. So malolactic fermentation, for example, from my experience here in Oregon, a lot of people really do that on their Viogniers here, that white wine that's a little bit thicker. It's not a Chardonnay, it's not a Pinot Gris, like crisp. It's like a little bit in between, and there's this texture to it. And it's due to that malolactic fermentation. The whole process that the winemaker does. So those were kind of new things that I wasn't used to like seeing when it comes to how to make a Pinot Noir. So we have that here. So it's going to be interesting to taste it.
I'm curious.
Yeah, there's a tasting room. So the vineyard, he just has the vineyards here in Oregon. So his main tasting room, it's called Quilt and Co. And it is in downtown Napa. So if you're ever in downtown Napa, this is where you can get this bottle and this brand, plus all of his other ones too. He's carrying them there as well. And that's like a regular place you can go eat and drink and just kind of enjoy downtown Napa. I've never been. It's on the list now. I'm like, I gotta check this place out. Under the Elouan label, he also has a rosé and a Chardonnay. So we're gonna try this 21 Pinot and see what this is all about, this California twist on this Oregon Pinot. I'm here for it. So
Yes, I'm too.
Cheers.
mm. Oh yeah, California. In your face. Yes. Oh my goodness. This is very different than an Oregon Pinot, for sure.
Ooh. Now I want to taste an Oregon Pinot.
I know. They're okay. So Oregon Pinots, in contrast to this, they're a little bit more delicate.
Okay.
Like right off the bat,
You can smell
that first, like when it first hits your tongue, it's really like bold. All of a sudden. Like I don't know if you guys felt that.
Yeah.
The Pinots take a little bit more time to kind of unravel in your taste buds.
Okay.
This though, right off the bat, is like punch.
Yeah.
And it's jammy. Like there's a huge jammy quality.
Raspberry.
Yeah, and blackberry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like
and
it.
then smoky too, to an extent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Like tobacco-y, a little bit of tobacco-y.
So I wonder if that tobacco-y, that aroma or nose or essence that you're tasting and maybe smelling too, that might be from that seasoned barrel.
Yeah.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
You normally don't get that from a classic Oregon Pinot. Some years you can. It just depends on the year. Like this past winter, we had a huge ice storm. So like it froze the grapes, and that can do a lot of things to them. And I think that it'll make it a little edgier. That's how I would describe it, because I can't really say it's smoky, but there's just something like more peppery about those like hard winter Pinot Noir grapes. But yeah, no, I definitely think he nailed it with adding a California twist to it.
Agreed.
It's bold, loud and proud. Like there's no there's no quietness about that Pinot Noir, which I really like. Like I love all kinds of Pinot Noir. So I think this is a great standalone drinking wine, and I think this would pair really lovely with like meat. Throw it with a steak. You could even do this with some really nicely smoked fish too. And it would complement that. So
maybe too. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you all like it. That was really good.
Yeah, me too. It was
good pick, girls.
It was a picture. It was a picture.
Target. Thanks for having the same wine in two different parts of the country. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing too. This wine is super accessible. You can find it in almost a lot of grocery stores across the country. And I think mine was on sale for like $18. So it wasn't
here. Yeah.
Yeah, I think on his website it's like $22. So for a Pinot, especially like Oregon Pinots, they're getting, everything's getting a little bit more expensive, right? Just across the board. So Pinots can run like a regular Pinot Noir here in Oregon, they can run between like 35 to like $50, just depending on what it is, how long it's been aged, et cetera, et cetera. So I think this is really accessible. And if you like something bigger, go with this. Like, for sure. Oh, that was good. Okay. Well, fun times with that one. I love trying new wines.
Yes, that's true.
So tell me, thank you for joining me here on this season of research. That's kind of what I'm calling it now. It's the season of research. I'm researching what dance superpowers you gained from your dance training that have helped you in your career changes in the past, or even the career that you're in now. And it may or may not have anything to do with dance. And mostly, I think that, you know, that's been the cool thing about this season, is that so many of us from Spotlight, we have gone off to do these like really amazing different careers. But we came from this place, this community that gave us a lot of really insightful and valuable lessons that took us to these places along the way and helped us navigate through them. So we're going to talk about your superpowers and what you thought over this dance training, over your lifetime, like what you gained from that. But before we do, go ahead and give us like a brief overview of how you got into dance and how long you did dance, and how you ended up in the career that you're in now. Go for it.
Well, how I started was actually pretty funny, just because my brother was taking karate, the first ever spotlight location.
Yes.
Um, my brother was taking karate. His dojo was right next door, and
Yes.
spotlight literally was right next door before they moved to the back of it.
Hmm.
So one day Anthony had karate and they saw that there was a dance studio there, and my mom signed me up. That was just like a 1, 2, 3. She was like, okay, while he goes to karate, you go to dance.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's pretty much how it started. And I think I was like around 6 years old. Um, and man, I lasted dancing until God knows, for 26, I think,
Yeah.
was spotlight. So it was a good, wow, 20 years. Good
Yeah.
20 years.
Like, I think you were the longest standing student slash teacher there.
Yeah.
Truly, I was like, the amount of time that we all spent there, I think Karla wins. Like, she wins.
Yeah, it was. I In hindsight, I didn't even think it was 20 years, but yeah,
Yeah.
it was a while. So that's pretty much how it started. And like how you said, like from there, I eventually got into teaching at Spotlight. But from 6 years old that I started with Spotlight, I'm here, as now a business owner, that I own my own brokerage as Lumina Property Management. So it has, wow, brought me a long way, and so much have learned from then to now. So it's kind of crazy.
That's awesome. What about you, Ashley?
Same. I mean, I really got into dance because of my sister. For those who don't know, we are 8 years apart. So just seeing her and wanting to follow in her footsteps and do everything that my sister's doing, I was like, oh yeah, no, I want to, sign up and do it too. And was able to convince my parents. And obviously, so I started Spotlight in 2002.
Mm-hmm.
So I was about like 7, 8,
7, 8. Mm-hmm.
at that time, and been with it, all throughout elementary school, middle school, high school, and then even now in my career. Wow, I'm just following in your footsteps.
Yeah.
She's always been on me to get my real estate license, and my background is HR. Like that's what I did for 6 years, and then she was like, get your real estate license. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And never did it. And then COVID hit, and I was like, yeah, nothing but time at that point.
Yeah.
So that's really when I pulled the trigger.
Right.
And started studying. I signed up for the class, took my state exam, and all that stuff. And now I'm a real estate agent, and I love it. I wish I would have done it sooner. And I mean, it's been great. It's been great to have a career change and to see where I was, what I used to do, to now, like, it's completely different to what I'm doing now, but it's the best. I mean, I don't have nothing but good things to say.
That's awesome. I mean, I get to follow both of you on social media, and I love, like, because I feel like social media is a huge part of your industry now too. Like, that's actually helping you as far as sales and interest and clients. Like, that actually is a huge tool for you all. So you're very active on social, and it's like my favorite thing in the world. Because I'm like, oh, what house is Ashley showing?
Yeah.
Like, what time did she get to the gym today? Like, you're really her gym girl. And I'm like, oh, I can't do that anymore. I have no business getting up before 6 a.m. So, like, go girl, do that. It's so great. So I love following you guys on social, and just kind of all the really cool career moves that you're making. And it's really, I've said this to all the students. I'm so proud of all of you, because like, you were great humans back then as like young adults, and now like you're these amazing humans just doing like adult things too. So it's definitely carried through, and I'm just like so proud of how everybody like really found success in their own way and their own path. Y'all just like, you're killing it. Everybody's killing it.
Yeah.
Totally. It's so great to see, and everyone in their respective fields is so great to see that from you say community, and which is true. And in my eyes, I want to say family, just because it felt like that was like literally our second family, our second home. So it's great to see everyone, like everyone just
thriving.
Yes. No, that word has definitely come up across the board. Like it was a lot of people's second home. It was hard to leave that place. Like, why are we still there and it's 11 p.m.? Like, why didn't we just leave? You know, like you couldn't. There was just this magnet that sucked you in. And I remember like, because I mean, you too, Karla, like at some point you have to have a full-time job and then we would do the dance studio thing at night, right? So you're tired from working all day long, and then you're like, oh my God, I gotta go teach like 3 hours.
Yes.
Ooh, okay, but then so you're like you're dying on the way there. You're like, I'm gonna have to fight for my life tonight. Great. And then you get there and it's like this magic.
And just like
walk in the door and you're like, I am happy yet again. Like I'm not bothered about being here at all. It's like once you get there, everything goes away. Everything. And I think it's a great example of like the culture that Peter and Margaret established since day one. Like they've been doing this for such a long time. I've told this to the other students, like this season and this season in particular with all of you, like this is the love letter to Spotlight Dance Center. And it's just, it was such a magical place and it impacted so many people. So I love that we're honoring this place and Peter and Margaret, who are the people behind that. And what, like, they gave us so much more than just like learning how to dance.
Yes.
And learning how to teach dance, right? To be leaders. So we got these superpowers. So what are your top 3 superpowers that you learned from your dance training? And Karla, you're in a really interesting place too, just because of that shift that you made from growing up at the studio as a student and then like being a teacher there for almost equally as long. So you got to really experience these 2 different worlds in your like growth as a human being. So your superpowers, either as a dancer, your dance training, or just like teaching dance, what do you think are your top 3?
I would say vocation, because I feel like you need vocation to teach. Not a lot of people are good teachers in the sense you have to hone in and be able to simplify things or make it harder or like understand emotions and read the room. Like there's just so many things that one as an individual would have to do. I would say vocation would be one of them. And I felt like that taught me that to be able to teach, have the voice to teach to younger kids and adults, because I did from kids to adults. So I would say that would be one. And I think we'll kind of go hand in hand with like being coachable and stuff like that, because you would have to also learn how to, make an adjustment. Confidence and patience. And my confidence, I would say, yes, it has given me like the ability to not be scared to speak in front of people and, just be me and be loud and, just make sure I'm heard and stuff like that. But I feel like it also ties into something a little bit more personal, that it has taught me to be Peter and Margaret. Like this would go, and if I cry, oh my gosh, I am so sorry.
It's okay. I think we've all shed some tears on this. Yeah, like it's hard.
Yeah,
she has a soft spot for them.
She's
always had.
I do. They're my guardian angels, is how I like to say. But speaking with them and more with Peter, it's just he's given me a type of confidence to speak out personally, like with family, with as a sibling, as a daughter. It's just he's honed in a different aspect of my life in order to become a better person familial wise, if that makes sense. So I love that. I felt like my confidence because of that, through that aspect, as well as what I've said before, kind of has just made me a better person and be more better sister, a better friend, a better, everything. And man, patience. Does that teach you patience?
What do you mean? We were great.
Yeah. That's a classic moment right there. Right there. Oh my God. I was just like thrown back like 50 immediately in that one statement, Ashley, because Ashley would say that like that. And we were like, Karla, I mean, I don't know how many times we'd be in the little back room where the office was, and we'd be back by like the shoes, and I'm like,
Yes,
both
yes.
like, like just kind of having
Like,
one of those days where it was a particular student or if it was just like a full class. And half the time I feel like the hardest frustration we had there was because it was a recreational studio was like attendance, right? Like,
yes.
like how am I supposed to choreograph this if none of y'all show up? Like,
Exactly.
how am I supposed to do this? And then y'all get stressed out when you don't know where your spot is. It's because like you have to be here and I can't make you be here. But so I think that was like our biggest challenge, right?
Yeah.
Like we didn't have any other, I mean, we had maybe some other crazy things along the way, little one-offs. Like we all have some good stories.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, like patience is a really big one into like, not just with children, but with adults too.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think sometimes the adult classes took more patience than the kids.
Yes.
Which
is sometimes they're older than us, so it's like, how do I speak to you also? and there that goes that vocation and being coachable type thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to speak to an older person who could be like my mom or something, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, but do it this way. Nicely.
I know what you mean. Yeah, totally. Yeah, the patience thing, I think that gets overlooked. I think patience too, when you say patience, because I see this show up for me at work. Like I work in emergency management, and sometimes we have to respond to things. If something goes sideways, like we have to keep cool. We have to be this pulse line. Like we can't be like this because everybody else is like this. So we have to be the ones to come in and be like, okay, what's going on? What are we doing next? Who's here with me? Got it. And then we like make a plan, right? So I think that patience actually extends further into like keeping your calm and your composure. Like it's this thing because like as you're trying to communicate to somebody older than you as you're teaching a dance class, you have to keep a composure about yourself, even if they're like pushing back or there's like tension there. You have to just like that professionalism that Peter taught us and Margaret, like they instilled that professionalism in all of their instructors and in their classes, and like there was no other way to do things other than like that. There was no option. Like we were never given an option because we never saw another option.
Right.
So it was like it was this. Like if things got rough, like we knew it was this. And then I mean, Peter and Margaret are heavy in their faith, so like it always came back down to that too. They're just like, have some faith, it'll be fine. Like it'll be fine. And that was actually a huge like foundational piece of the studio. Different from a lot of other studios where that is the center. It's different. It's different.
Completely.
I've taught at studios where that is the center and it's not the same as what they did. Like the culture is very different. So I always appreciated how they nuanced that as well.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And you guys learned that patience, I feel like even sooner, because I feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys taught a lot of us while we were younger, before we got into the competitive and competition team, sorry, and all that stuff. So sorry. But you know, love ya.
I guess
long time. Love y'all.
Love you, mean it. It's true. And I mean, like I said, I only really have happy memories at that studio. I mean, yes, like you're just frustrated with people just because we're human beings and like kids are trying to figure out how to not misbehave and stuff and how to like learn the etiquette of this place that we're in. But no, like I only have happy memories. And some of those happy memories are when y'all would give me the hardest time too. Like I'm like, man, like Sophia and Sharon just like talking in the back during warm up. I'm like, what are y'all doing? And like, that's one of my favorite things to think about. I'm just like, they were so they weren't mean. They weren't being bad. They were just being teenagers. Like they were just being
girls at that point.
Girls and learning.
Girl teenagers.
Yeah.
Now that we're older though.
Yeah, I'm looking back for sure.
Yeah, now
in the moment I was like, oh God, listen to that at me.
You knew when you were in trouble. Like I feel like the kids, like everyone knew that too. Like everyone knew how far to push.
Yes.
So it was like over, because then if like Miss Margaret or Mr. Peter came after you, then it was like, ooh, like, that's another game over.
Yeah.
Because then, you know, your parents are going to get involved too at that point,
Yes.
and it's done. It's a done deal.
It's not very good looking after that.
Yes.
No.
Not very good looking. No. I love it. All right. Well, what else? What other superpowers did you miss?
You can go ahead.
I would say for me, definitely the boldness. Just to gain that confidence and to learn even what confidence is. Like for so many years, even being younger now, looking back, like I didn't know what that meant, what that was. But being in a studio where you're surrounded by that because you see that. And you see that even like in the older people that are teaching us and stuff. Like it's just something that I surrounded myself with. Yeah. And I learned to just be bold, like be respectful, but be bold.
Yes.
You know, because that you can be bold and be rude, and that's not what our culture, like you said, that's not what we were surrounded by. So it's just like be bold, but be respectful, and don't forget who you are, essentially.
Yeah, I think there was like a really nice balance of like, here are the rules. Here's how, you know, if we're gonna send you out into the real dance world to like learn it to like get dance jobs, here's etiquette, like here's how you need to behave. But there was like a really nice balance of like, but also be unapologetically who you are. Like you're gonna be who you are. We're gonna be loud, like in the studio. I don't know how many times I would be teaching, or like somebody would be teaching, and half of us with students and Peter or Margaret, we're all cracking up in the lobby, and we're like, like it's just like it's a big loud atmosphere. It wasn't stuffy, you know, and like it was just like a really nice balance of here's kind of how this plays out, and just so you have the tools to like move on and go, and not feel like you're out of place, but at the same time, like we accept you just as you are here. So like, and we want that, like we actually want you to be that.
Correct. Yeah. And comfortable in your own skin. I mean, another one that I would say is taking constructive criticism.
Oof, yeah.
You know, we were in a competition studio. We had the competition side and affiliate to it, but it was, you know, once you got to that level, if you wanted to, it's okay, this is what you want to do, but you have to come up and show up in a different way. And if you don't, like, you're going to be called out and you're going to be pulled to the side and be like, hey, like, either this is not working or this is how you can change. But that's what I loved about Spotlight, is that they paved the way for you. They actually taught you. They took the time to pull you aside to say things like that because they care. People who don't care are not going to do that.
Exactly.
And they saw something in us that in that moment or at that age, I didn't see in myself. Like there was a point where I was just dancing because I knew that my sister did it and I wanted to do everything that she was doing, and it was just dance. But then it became something that you fall in love with, and it becomes part of you, and it becomes who you are in a shape, way, or form. So there's different layers to that where I feel like, you know, with the constructive criticism, it hits different topics and layers because it shows a different side of you in a different level or at a different time that you don't know. But then you look back and you're like, okay, wait, I remember that.
Right. So to piggyback on that, I would say that a superpower would be like embracing change. Like it made us handle the change and the transition and all that stuff, like how you're saying.
Correct.
A little bit more eloquently.
No, I agree, because if something, like if you, not even if you did something wrong, let's just say you didn't perform the way you should have, or you weren't hitting certain moves the way that you should have during you know, practice or rehearsal or whatever. It's like, okay, what's going on? And I felt like that was always like the number one question every teacher, even Peter and Margaret, asked, like, what's going on? It wasn't you're doing this wrong, it was, are you okay? Like, is there anything that I can help? And then it was, okay, well, now let's break it down. Let's, you know, figure it out where you need to be, type of thing, you know? They never made you feel less than in that sense.
Yeah, I think embracing change is a nice like sub layer of that constructive criticism. And it's not even about taking constructive criticism. It's actually being able to like process constructive criticism, because like that transition from going from just a regular recreational class to the competition class, you knew, and they prepped you. Like I'm like, there was a conversation before any student went into that class that was like, okay, so normally things are like this, but when you take this class, it's going to feel like this. Like they gave you the tools for success, right? So like they prepped you for being able to process constructive criticism, not just throw it at you. And like you just said, Ashley, like we never threw criticism at people. It was about like, I don't know what's happening right now. And like you pull that one student aside and you're like, because it could just be like they're not clicking that day, like their brain is just not that information, or like something deeper is happening and they're completely distracted. So like, and the student didn't have to divulge, but like you just had to like check in. It was that check-in that was really important. And I think every teacher was really good about that.
Agreed. Absolutely, yeah.
And Peter and Margaret would give us as teachers like heads up too. Like, hey, by the way, if they knew something on the deeper level that we didn't, or we went into our classes, they were like, hey, this is what's going on with this student, just letting you know, because if they have a behavioral thing today, that may be why. And so just kind of like nurture that a little bit. And it was just like a really good it was open communication. Really good communication, top down, and it was just awesome. So embracing change was a big one. And that was easy to do at Spotlight. We were able to pivot quickly, and I think a lot of that too had to do with Peter and Margaret's like heavy experience in the professional dance world. As professional dancers themselves, like they were like, listen, like, do you know what a quick change is? We're going to teach you what a quick change is. You're going to learn. Like you're going to learn how to do your makeup properly and yourself. Like no one is going to do it for you. You need to learn to do this yourself. So there was a lot of change that happened, but I think Ashley, you hit it on the head. Like they set you up for that success of change. And I think that's something me personally, that's shown up for me. And I didn't think about that until now, but like a big concern of mine when we have a new employee or someone new coming to the team, I don't want them to feel like a deer in headlights when they get here. One, it's unprofessional. Two, like nobody wants to feel like that. You want to be set up for success. You want to be set up in a way where you're excited about something and you want to do the work. That's how you motivate people. So I think that's a really important tool. Also, like a superpower is like the ability to set people up for success and to like care about that.
Yes. Agreed. Yeah. And then I think my last one would be similar to yours with vocalizing, but in a different category. I think with me, I would say it in the aspect of speaking up for myself. And I say that because prime example is going into, or an example, not a prime example, is going into the competition side. I vocalized wanting to even like try it. And then you said, well, if you're going to try it, like this is what you're going to have to do. Like you're going to have to prove basically A, B, and C to Peter and Margaret. You're going to have to tell them you want to be on this. Like this comes with responsibility and integrity and everything else. Like it's not just, oh, I want to do it and then it's done like the next day. So, and I feel like that coincides with our everyday life now, and us as a realtor is closed mouths don't eat. And if you don't speak up for yourself, or if you don't vocalize how you feel or ideas or whatever, like you're only hurting yourself.
Because you're not going to be heard.
Exactly. So it's just like, have faith in you and believe in yourself that, if you can do something or if you want to do something, you can. And it's all about just having a conversation, like literally using your voice.
But like the act of.
Yes.
So Ashley, like this is the quote of this episode is closed mouths don't eat. Like there, that was a good one. And I loved what you were saying, like the act of like, cause I don't know, I've taken I did jujitsu for like a little bit of time, like 2 years ago. And I know, right?
Lindsay.
I know, I'm trying new things. It was fun. It was like, it was like the improv dance that like I actually kind of like.
Okay.
Like contact improv. I was like, oh yeah, this is cool. You're actually like learning how to like break someone's arm. That's useful information, you know?
Yes,
Like
it is. Agreed.
I like this. But I did it for a year and I was like, I think I'm done. But like in that, you know, it's tied to self-defense classes too, because a lot of that technique can be applicable to self-defense. And I know in some self-defense classes, like they actually go so far as to start the class with like how to use your voice to self-defend, because like that's actually a thing people can't do.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm guilty of it. Like there's how many times do you ever think about like I should have said that, or like I should have, or why I actually question myself. I'm like, why did I feel the need to not say something in that moment? You know, like, and I think that's a lot of like conditioning and like just social expectations of women in particular. Like we have these extra things loaded onto us where it's like, we can't, our voice is actually for us to use it. It's like unacceptable and it's like dangerous too.
Yep.
A little bit of danger in there because you might get in trouble for some reason.
Yeah.
By whom I don't know, but like it's just this thing that we go through. So I actually love that you're taking it so far down, like you're dialing it so far down to like your actual voice. It's not just the confidence that you exude just by walking in a room. It's like, no, I actually can speak. Like I'm speak, because I think we underestimate, especially as women, how difficult that actually is.
Yes, ma'am.
I agree.
Wow. Ooh, you hit it right on the nail for me, because that's literally how I feel. Like I feel like we're so not minimized. I guess minimized to a point, but like we're taught to just keep the peace until we realize whose peace it's keeping. And then it's just like, no, like I'm gonna say, if I feel something, again, respectfully, but I'm gonna say something. Like I'm not gonna stay shut about it.
Which is probably what makes us going to that, like, second guess ourselves or run it in our heads and be like, well, should I say something? Should I not say something? So
it's like having a drunken monkey in your head.
Right.
Yeah. And I wonder too, I mean, like it's complicated. Like as Latin women, you can't be too loud, right? Like, because then you're feeding into this other narrative, like generalization. And I think dance has really helped us, like, it's a really cool tool to help us balance like the confidence behind, I'm going to say something and I said it. Like it's one of those moments where you just can say, yeah, I said what I said.
Yep.
And, you know, I might be wrong, but like I need to say it. Like I would resent myself if I didn't just say it out loud.
Yeah.
I think that's shown up for me too, especially in my career. Like as I'm approaching my 40s, like I have less hesitation. And I think too, it's about the people you work with, right? If that kind of environment is like it's suppressing, you're not as easily willing to go there. But like I work with a bunch of people who, you know, equality is a big deal and like micromanagement is not a thing. So like all of our value and all of our opinions are important, or they should at least be expressed. We might not agree, but like we have the space where we can actually say it. And I mean, I work in higher education and there's a lot of like trendy words out there, and one of those is safe spaces, right? Like, and I hate that word because I think it gets misconstrued. Like safe space is actually where you can use your voice regardless of what you think, and what other people think around you. This person might be the complete opposite as far as like morals, you know, different like thoughts of how to navigate through life, but like I actually can say it here because that's a safe space. Like it's not we all think alike. Like that's not it.
Right. But you won't be judged or you won't be ridiculed or whatever for what you're thinking, what you want to say.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you took it down to like your actual voice, because it's really hard, especially for women, to use that tool. And it's a tool we have, and so many other people get to use it. And you know, it is a tool that, and especially as like American women, we can use that tool. We can use it. So we just have to take more advantage of that and not be scared. And dance helped us with that for sure.
Yeah.
It gives us the confidence in order to let go.
Yeah.
Let go.
And it's a like it's literally a confidence. Cause it took me so long to get to that point. Like that didn't happen overnight. That didn't happen from one year or one season to the next. Like it genuinely took a long time for me to find my voice and to feel comfortable with voicing myself. And to, like you earlier said, being unapologetically myself, you know?
Man, I love this. What else? Did you leave it? Did you think of anything else, or is there anything else on your list that you want to add to the conversation?
I think
those were my top three. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Huh?
I think those were mine too. I'm just looking here. I don't know. I felt like it also has given us the ability to, but I think we kind of honed in before. Like every time we fall down, get right back up again. Like it's just
resiliency.
Yeah, defeat doesn't exist, I guess, in our vocabulary.
Yes. Ooh.
It doesn't.
Ooh,
yeah.
You worded that perfect. Because it's true. Like it's like, ooh, now we're getting comfortable here. It's true. It's just like, okay, if something doesn't go your way, or if something doesn't happen in the timely manner that you think it's gonna happen, it's just
make an
adjustment, patience, going back to patience. Yeah. And then I felt like in Spotlight, and both of you have taught me, when I'm in a situation or I don't think that the situation is going to play out the way that I think it is, pivot. That's such a big vocabulary word in my life now. It's just pivot, get back up and pivot. It didn't work. Great. Pivot. Like figure out a different way to get to where you want to be, but don't get stuck on, oh, I didn't make it or it didn't work out this time. And like sit in that sorrow. Personally, I give myself anywhere between 24 to 48 hours to feel my feels. And then after that, I'm like, okay, let's move on. Let's on to the next. Yeah. I know everyone is not wired that way, and that's okay. But it's just like, don't sit in it for too long, because then it just you lose that initial spark that you had for it.
Yeah. And it's just not progressive. Like you're not going to progress if you kind of sit. And I agree, like sitting is really healthy. Like feeling that feeling is really healthy. But what's also really healthy is like moving. Like, and that, like at its basic form, like you will die if you don't move your body. You correct. Period. Right. So like the metaphor in that too, like in an instance where something doesn't go your way, like you have to keep going. We have to keep going. And that was a tough lesson during COVID, and like it's still a tough lesson. Like people are still not willing to let go of that. And I'm not saying they should. We have to honor that. Like it has to.
Yeah.
Ignore it, right? And like people were dramatically affected by this in some way or another, but there has to be a progression, because time does not stop.
Nope.
Correct. The show goes on, baby.
It goes on. Adjustment has to be made.
Yeah. Yes. And like pivot is a great word. That's come up a lot, like resiliency and pivoting in any situation. I think that is a really big strong point of dancers in particular, because we can do it in real time. Like in a work setting, it's like planning, and like you have time, there's time allotted to that. Unlike you're on stage performing and something falls off. You know, like there's a real-time aspect that dancers have as far as like an actual pivot or changing of something that is really special. And I want to make sure to highlight that. And I want to, like, I hope to teach, like, whatever research is coming out of this and like resources coming out of this. You know, it empowers young people coming out of dance to be like, so not only am I resilient, but like I can do things in real time if you need me to. And who else on this team can? You know, like I can do that, and I won't lose my cool, you know, because I have confidence, and like I have all these other things in my back pocket, and it all came from just wanting to dance. It all came from just being in a dance studio.
Yeah. I feel like we all. It's so funny now because I feel like we all crossed paths for a reason, because I can sit here and genuinely say that you two hold a very big part in the woman that I am today, because the time, whether that was, stop it, you guys are making me emotional. Whether if that was just the time that we spent like in class, it's just like Lindsay taught me something that you did, and you taught me things that Lindsay did. Like it was just the way, and the thing is that we were just so young at that point, or at least I can speak for like Lisa and I and the rest of the girls. Like we were so young. Like you guys were like our big sisters, our teachers that used to yell at us, scream at us, but like our big sisters. So it's just that you of course, because we're probably related.
Like
but
yeah.
My heart, because it's like you taught me something. You taught me a level of myself that I now today am and can express, and it's part of me. It's part of my story. It's part of my journey. So you guys definitely well succeeded your role. I give you that.
That was really sweet.
Thank you.
I mean, and Karla, I know I don't want to speak for you, but like I'm sure you feel very similar to me. Like it's such an honor to be a part of young students' lives in this way, because it's so fleeting and it's so minimal, but it's so impactful. Like in both ways. Like it's not just like, oh, we're just impacting like your life, Ashley. Like the stuff you guys gave us too, and I think that's another thing that is not talked about enough, is like what students do for teachers.
Right.
Yeah.
Because like, we also learn from you guys.
Yeah.
Like and it brings us back, when we're teaching, as far as like, I don't know, like our inner child, our inner, girl. So
I think being a teacher keeps you young. It keeps you youthful.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, because time goes by so fast.
Yeah.
And you age. I mean, I am for the first time, I think, experiencing like plantar fasciitis in my freaking feet. And I'm like,
oh no,
I'm a dancer.
I hate this. And there's like, but that's part of aging. Like all these little things happen, and I'm going to do my best to like counter that. Movement is a priority in my life, but even with that comes the stuff.
Right.
So like it's so fleeting, and time goes by so quickly. And as you age, like it's like nice to reflect on like how the students really gave you that breath of life. Continue to do so. Like like I said, I have happy memories of Spotlight, and there's so many like funny ones. And most of the time, like when I think back on Spotlight, I end up laughing, because there's just so many like little moments that mattered, brought joy. And I think, everybody deserves that kind of memory. I hope everybody gets those.
Yeah.
Not everybody does, but like we are fortunate to have that in our back.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. Our culture was that, like you said, it was just our family. Like it's just, because now I'm thinking while you just said that, is just, and not comparing like other studios, but I'm sure, I'm not sure actually, I don't know. You can cut that out. But it just,
you both just went to Spotlight, right? Like you didn't train anywhere else.
Well, I was in the dance magnet in high school.
Yeah.
For Dr. Phillips, while I was with, while I was taking class at Spotlight, and night and day.
Yeah.
Yes and that.
Yeah.
And then after that, just Ruckus after that.
Yeah.
But aside from that, no other studio.
And me, it was only Spotlight. Only Spotlight. Yeah. Since high school.
Yeah. But like, but no, I've taught at other studios, like multiple other studios here in Oregon, back in Florida. Like you teach it, and Karla, like studios would come to us too, like Spotlight, and just experiencing different students from different places. Like Ashley, you're right, like it's different. Like it is different.
Spotlight, like you can walk in and be yourself. Like it's just literally your second home. Like at least that's how I felt. It's just like, oh, we're here. Okay, we're gonna be here for the next 3 hours, probably 4, because Karla taught. So it was just like, you were prepared for that. And that was just like, you didn't walk in there and felt like a burden, or you didn't walk in there and felt like, oh, I'm here back again. Like at least I can say like I never did. I was like, okay, no, like it's dance time now. And
I was just gonna say the aura that it exuded, like Spotlight, was a good one. Like it was an inviting one. So I felt like that's why all of us were happy to be there. It felt like nothing.
And we all got along. Like everyone was we were just us.
Yeah.
Like
that. I'm wondering in the industry that you're in now, like, what do you do to make it like an inviting place for clients when you meet with them? Like, what are some things that you do to like set the stage for that? Because it's like so important to us, because that's what we had as the example. So like, do you do specific things to kind of set that environment for people that you work with?
For me, and I'll go really quickly because then I'll forget.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Do you want to go first?
For
you want me?
Me, I would say that definitely like light music is a plus, because I feel like music also kind of like is inviting. It warms it up. It kind of makes you like just at ease type thing. Yes. And then because of that, then it just, I guess my teaching self would come in, that it makes me like, okay, to be approachable, and I go to people and just like, hi, my name is Karla, blah, 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 and go from there. So I think that would be for me.
Yeah, same. And then with me, it's just being open and transparent. Like you guys know, I'm very black and white. Like there's no gray. There's no little bit color. Like it's just, this is me. But this is me, and this is me, you know, respectfully, humbly, gratefully. Like I'm a social butterfly. So when I go, like I always mean well. Like I never want anyone to feel less than. I never make anyone feel less than. And it's just in our career now, like I speak to you, even though you're my client, I speak to you as a friend. Casual conversation. Why? Because I'm going to get further into knowing you, what you want, what your needs are, by speaking to you like a normal person. Are we talking about business? Is that probably like why we're here? Yeah, absolutely. Sure. No problem. But I'm still going to speak to you as a friend or as a family member. Like I'm not going to sit there and like read off a script or something. Like, no, I want it to be normal. And if I want you to feel comfortable, and I'm very big on vibes. Like I read the room, but we learn how to read the room and dance. So it's just, I'm very big on body language. So like I read all of that, and I always want the other person to feel comfortable with me and meeting me and having a conversation with me. And then I essentially just go from there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cause I know like I have some realtor friends around here, and like they bring like flowers to the thing. They have like little gifts and things like that. And I think that's probably like more of a realtor culture, like, and like little things that you learn along the way that like kind of help. But like bridge the relationship between client and realtor, right? Like when we bought this house, my realtor gave me like a cutting board in the shape of Oregon. That was really cute, you know, and like I thought that was great. And it was like a meaningful gesture. So I'm wondering like because like we grew up in this really inviting environment for in different ways, right? Like not just like the people, but like the cleanliness of the studio, the way the studio was set up, the colors of the studio, like in the pictures that they chose to put around the studio, like it was very like inviting. If it decorated in a different way, like we would feel differently. Like I haven't been there since they sold it, so like I don't know what it looks like now, but it's like it's not Spotlight. Like it wouldn't be that, because it's and the walls are different. Like I don't know I'm sure they've done a lot of construction to that spot too. Hopefully not. They had lots of rooms, so like,
I haven't seen it either. I actually haven't seen it even when they still owned it. After, like I haven't seen it since I've left.
Sophia's wedding was the last time I saw it.
Oh yeah, because they had the wedding there. Yep. Okay. Yeah, and I'm sure
it looked the same. And I was gonna say, and it still looked the same with Spotlight.
I don't know what it looks like now, but like if it was different, it wouldn't have been the place that we know and love. It would have totally been that. So I was wondering how that like carries over into your career too, like not just because like I decorate my office like as my taste. Like I think that's just like my taste and my style comes through, but there's this other thing where it's like setting the stage, right? Like it's putting on a show. You're like, okay, well if I do it this way, the audience will receive it this way. So I'm constantly thinking about that, like in meetings, if I'm facilitating a meeting, like, is it classroom seating or is this better suited as like round tables? Because I want this collaboration, you know? So it's all about the way things are set up is the way you invite it. So I was curious about that, like especially in your industry, because I know that's kind of a thing. Like how do you draw people in? Because they're making a huge decision, a huge life decision. Like a lot of things are important in these conversations because it's not like it's not like just going to the grocery store and buying groceries. Like you're buying a home or property or whatnot. So it's big. And like how do you all in your careers like take that into consideration with the way you set it up for them? So that's interesting. Yeah, music is a big one for me too.
Yeah, because I feel like it's you have to hone into what that person wants, what that person's taste is, and get to know the person. So I feel like that's
essentially, yeah. And I agree because I mean, don't get me wrong. When I meet a client, or depending on, again, like who it is or what the situation is, like, yeah, I'll probably bring something. But I feel like me personally, Ashley, I make more of a connection when I ask you, how many kids do you have? What are their names? What are their birthdays? Like, you have to get personal because, as you said, you're not buying groceries. You're buying an asset. This is a lot of money that's going into this, and you're trusting me to get you from point A to point B. And this is where you guys are laying your head at night.
Right.
Yeah.
This is where you guys are raising your family. Like, it's not about me. It's about you. So, but me getting to know you and who you are and what you bring allows me the ability to find what type of home that probably checks off a lot of your boxes, or find good school locations. Like, it all narrows down to essentially something with that particular client, but it's always making it personal, at least again for me. Like, I make it personal. If you trust me to help you find a house, we're friends. Like, you're inviting me over for dinner on Sunday.
Yeah.
Like, that's just me. If not, I'm showing up. Whatever you want. It's cool.
I'm here.
Hello, brought some wine.
Hi, me again. Love that. I love it.
Being that way and being me then knocks down that barrier. Because it's like you have to break the ice.
Yes.
At first, it's so awkward because you don't know each other.
Right.
And so you break that ice, and it's like, okay, now we can go get coffee.
Cool.
Right.
You're easy to talk to. I get what you're coming from.
Right. Yeah. There's clients that flew in recently that I had to show homes for, and it's like we saw homes and then we went to a coffee shop. Okay, let's talk. Let's discuss each home. What did you like? What did you not like? But I'm able to knock down that barrier and that icebreaker because I did that on the front end. So now when we saw 11 homes, I can now sit at a coffee shop with you and be like, okay, let's discuss now. Which one are we writing an offer on?
Right. I think you're touching on another subset of confidence. Like, we have the ability to break the ice really easily as dancers because we had to. We're doing a very vulnerable thing. Like, we're all moving our bodies in maybe ways that we haven't before in space together. I don't know you, especially like adult classes, right? Like, you go in, you're like, I don't know any of these people, but I'm here to dance and like express myself like in front of these strangers, So breaking the ice is actually like a really natural ritual. I would go so far to say it's like actually a ritual that we do on a regular basis. And we are really comfortable with doing that. Like, everyone at work hates icebreakers. And I'm that person where I'm like, I love them. Like,
me too. I'm like, let's do it.
Yes. And they move around the room. Yeah. Let's go. Like, yes, let's stand up. Let's move people. Oh, we even have to touch each other. I'm fine with that. And then you just
bring it in.
And then you see the fear. Yes, you see fear, like actual fear in people's faces about like just even standing in close proximity with each other. And I'm just like, man, we're just like, this is just within us because we like, it's part of the culture of dance. And taking dance classes and even teaching dance. Like, you have to break down immediately, like, yes, I'm teacher, you're student, right? But like, also, like, I'm also a human being and I make mistakes too. And I'm going to say the wrong things and I'm going to I'm going to mess up too. And like, you're going to correct me because I couldn't remember this freaking choreography. Like, like this is kind of the way it goes. So I feel like breaking the ice, that's a big one that no one has said, but I think it ties to that confidence. Like, it's a sub layer of that. So, wow. I have like a full page of notes here from this.
I love it.
Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate your time. I know both of you are so busy all the time, and Karla, you've got two little ones, and it's what day is it? Saturday. Like this is our weekend, so.
He, side note, loves to dance, and I taught him the coffee grinder. And when we went to Sophia's baby shower, he was like so excited to do it and did it. And then he's like, "Mommy, who touched us?" Like, that man right there. He taught me it, Mr. Peter.
Yes.
So it's crazy how dance has tied in even to me now as being a mom of two, and that my kids love to dance.
Yeah.
It's like it's great.
I think.
Well, she forgot to mention that also Noelia started ballet.
Yes.
So
oh my goodness.
actually a month ago.
A month ago.
A month ago.
Technically called creative dance, but
Right.
So ballet. She loves it. She loves it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. So yeah, that's been the fun thing too about watching. I mean, even like Teresa and her kids, and just like everybody with their children, like this cyclical dance is like living on amongst the younger ones too, that are kind of coming into the picture. And whether whether it just happened to be dance for her, and it might be volleyball in 7 years,
right?
Like it could be whatever. But this whole idea of just kind of like, no, this is a part of who we are. It's like a huge it's a value, and I think it's because I don't like tying things to our identities, because I think like our identities are like they are it. My job isn't my identity. My dance isn't my identity. Like these are all pieces of my identity. That really matter. So I love seeing how it kind of like falls through the next generation. Well, thank you both for joining me today.
Yes, ma'am.
It was
awesome. Until next time, cheers.
Cheers.